Imagine you're sitting on a bench with your nephew, and he's just finished his first year of high school band. He's excited about the next step, but you can see the hesitation in his eyes when the conversation drifts to, "What's the next clarinet?" You've both Googled a few models, read a handful of forums, and you know that spending a couple $1,000s on the wrong instrument can set a budding musician back months. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's talk through whether the Selmer B16 Prologue is the right bridge between a student instrument and a professional setup, and what the real-world experience looks like once you take it home. First off, the B16 Prologue sits in the intermediate slot, which for clarinets means it's built to give a richer, more nuanced tone than a basic student model, but without the cost and custom-fit complexities of a handcrafted professional instrument. That's an important distinction because the leap from a beginner clarinet to a professional can be jarring. The keywork feels heavier, the intonation tighter, and the response less forgiving. The Prologue's design tries to smooth that transition. It uses an ebony body, a material that many seasoned players say adds a depth to the lower register that a lighter plastic or composite can't match. In a typical high school band rehearsal, where you're often forced to blend with a mix of brass and woodwinds, that extra resonance can help you cut through without having to overblow. The silver-plated keys are another practical detail that shows up when you're actually playing. Unlike the standard nickel silver you see on cheaper student clarinets, the polished silver reduces friction when you move between keys, which translates to a more fluid legato in passages that demand quick, clean articulation. I noticed that during a chamber music rehearsal last month, the clarinetist with the B16 could glide from a fast GBD run into a sustained low E without a perceptible hitch. For an intermediate player who's just starting to explore more expressive phrasing, that responsiveness can feel like an instant upgrade. Now, the mouthpiece, Selmer calls it a focus mouthpiece, and the name isn't just marketing fluff. It's cut to give a centered, bright tone that sits nicely in the middle of the instrument's acoustic profile. In practical terms, that means you can get a solid sound on the sweet spot of the instrument without having to chase the dark or bright extremes with excessive embouchure adjustments. For a student who is still developing a consistent airstream, the Focus mouthpiece can provide a stable platform for daily practice, whether you're working on a long scale or a short jazz lick. The barrel and bell also deserve a mention because they're where a lot of tonal shaping happens. Selmer's barrel for the B16 is slightly longer than the standard student barrel, which adds a subtle warmth and helps keep the intonation in the 4th and 5th octaves more reliable. In my experience with a community youth orchestra, the clarinetist using a longer barrel reported fewer squeaks when playing high passages, which saved rehearsal time for the conductor. The bell, being crafted from the same ebony as the body, reinforces that richness and provides a more focused projection. If you've ever stood at the back of a marching rehearsal and felt like your sound was getting lost in the wind, the bell's design can help you project forward without shouting. So who should seriously consider the Selmer B16 Prologue? If you're an intermediate player who has outgrown a basic student instrument and you're looking for a step up that still feels manageable, this clarinet hits a sweet spot. High school band members heading into varsity, college freshmen in a music program, or serious hobbyists who want a reliable gig instrument will find the tonal upgrade and smoother key action a noticeable benefit. It's also a good fit for teachers who need an instrument that can handle both ensemble work and solo repertoire without requiring a full custom setup. On the other side of the equation, you might want to pass on this model if you're a true beginner who's just getting used to forming a correct embouchure and mastering the basics. The B16's richer tonal palette and more responsive keywork can actually highlight a lack of control in a novice player, leading to frustration. Likewise, professional clarinetists seeking a handcrafted, custom mouthpiece, or those who demand the absolute lightest key action for extremely fast contemporary passages might find the B16 a bit too middly off the road. The instrument is also a bit heavier than a typical student model because of the ebony, so for marching gigs where weight is a critical factor, you might feel the difference after a few hours. When it comes to practical strengths, the first thing I noticed was the consistency of intonation across the full range. In a recording session with a local jazz combo, the clarinetist didn't have to keep adjusting the tuning slide. The pitch stayed solid from low chalumeau notes up to the clarion register. That stability saved us time, and allowed the player to focus on phrasing rather than constantly fiddling with the instrument. The key response: